Welcome to the Uniformer News Roundtable, where industry insiders from the Network Association of Uniform Manufacturers and Distributors break down the latest headlines, trends, and stories shaping the world of uniforms and workwear.
Hello, welcome to the Uniformer. I am Rick Levine, Executive Director of the NAUMD, and we have a new format that we're trying out today, and we're very excited about it. So we have two specialists with us. They are columnists in the Pulse, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Aileen?
Yes, thank you for having me here for this new format. So I'm Aileen Out. I'm from the Netherlands. I am a writer and speaker and content creator and advisor when it comes to workwear and uniforms. I started 11 years ago with writing about workwear, and now here it's my full-time job. And I have a column since 1 year. This week is my anniversary at the NAUMD, 1 week. And I'm very happy. And I also create videos on social media about uniforms in the airline industry. That's what I do. And I am considered myself as a workwear nerd.
Excellent.
Very nice.
Leslie?
So,
Great.
yeah.
Aileen, you're in great company. We are also uniform nerds. I'm Leslie Watt McArdle. I am a member of the NAUMD, as well as I've been working in this industry for a very long time, taking different roles and positions. So sometimes I'll come in with a different perspective, having really worked in the industry creating the uniforms. This is going to be really fun and exciting. Any time I get to talk about uniforms, I am there at the table. So looking forward to going through this with you both, and let's get going.
Excellent. All right. So the big reveal for the format change is that this will be considered our news episodes. So we're thinking on a regular basis, we will produce episodes of the Uniformer that are focused just on news, and the three of us as NAUMD columnists and industry members coming from the different perspectives that we just mentioned will discuss news and topics. The format is we're each going to bring two news items, but we're not telling each other what we're bringing to the conversation. So each of us will not know, just like you don't know, what the articles will be about. Neither do the participants know that are talking about the topic. So I'm excited to introduce this first article that I'm bringing. It's not really news as in this is topical, like this just got announced, right, about some product or company. But I thought it was really interesting because it's this tie-in between what the military does and what the world of fashion and uniforms does. So there's this article we published in the Pulse recently from a news source called soldiersystems.net. And it is a daily news source for the Department of Defense and the military in general about things that are happening in their world. But this particular author wrote a column titled U.S. Army's Impact on Fashion. And so I thought it would be fun to ask the two of you, sight unseen, what is your guess that they picked for the 5 or 6 items that this author was able to cite and say, oh, so these are the things that we commonly see in the fashion and uniform world that really came out of the military. What do you think?
Well, I think first of all, I think it's the camouflage print. That's
Bingo,
a big thing. Yeah, but that's also in a lot of countries illegal because the military is wearing the print. So you cannot wear it when it comes to fashion. So there are some countries where you can get a fine for that or get even to jail.
You know, that's a really interesting point. And I think that's almost all countries have some kind of, you cannot copy the pattern that the Departments of Defense, the militaries actually wear. But you know, out of the hunting industry, of course, you know, comes a ton of different camo patterns. Leslie, what's your guess?
I was going in for the bomber jacket.
Oh, bomber jacket. That's a good one. This author didn't cite that, but they did cite outerwear, right? And then in a game show environment, I think we would have counted your answer.
Oh, we would have. I wouldn't get the X. Thank you.
What else? So outerwear, definitely we borrow from the military. 3 others.
Epaulets?
No, they didn't go for accessories. These are finished items, but one is the aviator glasses, right? So that came out of, the military, and that's now a super common eyewear item.
But that's also a thing for Tom Cruise.
Oh,
he made that popular. Yeah, and we need to give him credit for that.
Here's one that I wasn't expecting. Cotton t-shirts. This author saying that the cotton t-shirt was really a World War I exclusively an underwear item and not believed appropriate for wear on its own in public. It was literally underwear, right? Was the cotton t-shirt. How many of us grew up with fathers who wore the t-shirt underneath the button-down shirt, right? And now men really don't do that much, but that's where the cotton t-shirt had come from, and then it got popularized just in general. And the last one was combat boots, right? So
yes, that makes sense.
That style just became so common among all kinds of workwear and athleisure, right? Hiking and, yeah.
Well, I don't agree on the t-shirts, to be honest. I think that's really, they give too much credit to the army for that, because we are all they call it a casualization. Everything is getting casual. So I think that's also the biggest thing. It started with Casual Friday and then it goes on. And I don't think that is just an inspiration from the army. No. I think just everyone is going for casual workwear nowadays. So
possibly the author citing that when U.S. soldiers were returning from World War I, because they wore T-shirts out in public, which people really didn't do prior to the 1930s, that's why they're saying that may have contributed to that casual nature. But you're right. There's probably examples of the T-shirt. But specifically the cotton T-shirt, they're saying, maybe the style of just a simple shirt. I have no idea, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, or the fashion nowadays is just boring.
Yeah.
With just T-shirts, basic. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is, Leslie, how many customers now ask for, well, we just want a T-shirt with our logo printed on it, and that'll be our uniform.
So many. It is countless. And a lot of times when you go ahead and do that, a lot of times they'll change depending on what the business is, because when you hear the word T-shirt, you think affordable, inexpensive. I think it's also that reason that people look for that. I definitely think it's a great thing in like a quick serve type of atmosphere or things like that. But for a true professional uniform, it really should be a layering.
Interesting. I know the NAUMD just gave an award for the Taco Bell program recently this year that featured, high quality T-shirts, not the local, hot dog cart on the corner, but it's interesting. All right. Well, so that was my article. Aileen, I'm going to pass you. What do you got for us today?
Well, I got something that it's not like a news item, but it's something that I wrote online, that I read online. My English.
Okay.
And that is, and I'm curious, Rick, maybe you have seen the article that I've written about it. Did you have seen it or not?
I don't know what article you're talking about yet.
It is the question, why are the pockets of women so small?
I don't know. Why are pockets for women so small?
Do you have any idea why, comparing to the pockets for men? Do you have any idea? No.
Not me.
Leslie?
I think my first instinct will be because our body frames are much more narrow in general. we're smaller human beings.
Okay, and when I tell you they're in average, when you look at statistics from the US jeans companies, they're on average 48% shorter and 6.5% smaller. So what do you think now, Leslie? What would be the reason?
We're made differently. So maybe where the pockets are located, it's important.
No, it's a very, in my opinion, very interesting story, because the pockets started as a pouch that was made to a belt that people were wearing underneath their clothes. That's from the history. And in the 17th century, men were starting to have pockets, and women still have the pouches. And that is when the moment when it changed, because from that moment on, pockets were seen as something masculine.
Interesting.
There was even a time during the French Revolution that women were not allowed to have pockets. It was just illegal, because they were afraid that women will have certain things in their pockets to harm the revolution. And so this is the reason why nowadays women have so much handbags, because it's still seen pockets are, Christian Dior said one time, pockets for men are just to carry things, and for women are just decorating. And the real reason behind the fact why women didn't have pockets was because people thought that women couldn't have any stuff or things. They couldn't own anything, papers or keys or something. So that's still why pockets are smaller nowadays for women than for men. I think that was fascinating. I tried to put it in a short story now. It's a very long story.
When you're designing for a program, though, Leslie, do you find that the women are getting similar size pockets, or do you still see that they're smaller?
It depends on location of the pocket. So they are smaller. That's just a fact from a design aspect, but definitely the location drives the size of the pocket. Definitely if they're pant pockets and cargo pocket, they will be smaller depending on the size of the garment. Just aesthetically speaking. So yes, they still are smaller.
But isn't that strange? Because I found out from my perspective, if you look at fashion brands, it is way much smaller. But when you look at workwear brands, it's not that much smaller for women. But when I think about workwear, I mean, the men and the women need to carry the same things when they have pockets. So isn't that strange that you what, Rick? I think it is true, right?
Yeah. No, I'm laughing along. Like, why would we make them different? I mean, the only reason to make them different, Aileen, is you're not going to make the same pocket in a grading, right, for a size small men versus a size 3XL men, right? You very well could have adjustments in the pocketing as well. Am I correct in that, Leslie, that the grading would shift on the pocketing or not?
You are, and it's also what the pocket, when you're designing pockets with a purpose. If it is a pocket that is to hold a particular device, in those cases, it will be the same. It has to accommodate that device. But if it's more of an aesthetic or just you have pockets in your product, it will be designed and graded as such based on the size of the person.
So the proverbial cell phone pocket, right, which developed over the past decade, right, that's all going to be universal because we have to fit a cell phone. Okay.
Even that changes because the phone goes here, here, here. It gets bigger.
Well, I want to introduce a new law, and I think that all pockets should be the same. We need to be inclusive in this area, inclusive for every people. Yes. Every pockets need to be the same. That's my opinion.
You're taking a political stand on the pocket sizes. Got it, Aileen.
I support you, except on the chest, the top.
All right.
Okay, you should go to Trump with this.
We will certainly make that an advocacy issue for our network. 100%.
Fairness.
All right.
and
Hey,
competence.
Leslie, what do you got for us?
So, not to be self-serving, but I pulled something that I really feel is interesting and topical in our industry is the part of promotional wear. So the article was through the NAUMD, and basically I looked into what is, where is the line drawn between promotional wear and uniforms? And part of that is, we go back to what promotional products started, and it started by printing advertising on bags. Until this day, that's a huge promotional item. But if you've noticed, and everyone, all the promotional companies are getting involved in uniforms. When you think of the big Fortune 500 companies, or no, probably smaller, like the Alpha Broda, the Sanmars, they're in the United States, Aileen, and they are just massive. And the amount of product that you can add any type of personalization or logo is amazing, and then it becomes a uniform. So the competition doesn't come from strictly uniform companies. It comes from everyone. You can, open up a screen print shop and consider yourself a uniform supplier in some cases. So I guess my question to the group is, where is the line drawn? And, promotional product is an important part, but it's not the same as having a true designed uniform with, certain specifications.
I think it depends on the brand. I think it depends on, because some companies are so big and had such a big name that they even make small dolls with uniforms on it, And that is also a promotional thing. If you look at, for example, the airline industry, there are airlines that are selling clothes for children, which are the same uniforms that are for the cabin crew, for example. So, yeah, I think that it depends on, and I think that big companies like McDonald's, for example, for them, they have a big brand, but on the other side, they have so many different uniforms. Like in one country, they have more uniform. Rick, you're really looking like, what is she saying?
Go on, make your point.
So
go on.
I think it depends on how big is the brand and how consistent is their uniform.
Yeah. So I think Leslie was getting at the concept also, Aileen, that certainly in the United States, we have a few thousand uniform companies and we have 60,000 promotional products distributors. Okay. Now, the statistics have been pretty consistent now for years that 50% of what those 60,000 promotional products distributors sell are textiles. 50%. Right? So where's the line then between what a promotional product seller sells versus what a uniform company sells? Amusingly, one person described it back to me once saying, well, it's pants. Right? So if I sell promotional products, I typically avoid pants like the plague. Right? Because I don't want to deal with it, right? If I have a standard industrial pant in this number of inseams and this number of waists, I now have 400 SKUs that I need to add to my, mixture of things I just need to deal with, right? As opposed to an alpha size, polo shirt, right? I have 8 SKUs. Right. So
yes, exactly.
I think there's a simplicity in their ability to sell to a car dealership. They can go in and they could say, well, we want to give you coffee mugs with your car dealership logo on it. And who's supplying those shirts that your team on the show floor are wearing, and who's supplying those coaches jackets, the nylon coaches jackets that people are wearing when they're walking around the lot. Who's selling you those? Well, I got a better deal for you on those, right? So suddenly that promotional products dealer is now in the uniform industry, right?
Correct.
And we've had overlap on that for a long time. But if your question was, well, where does the line get drawn? Then you're right. It's in what is a true uniform, right? And to us, a true uniform is the entire collection of items that you are wearing as part of a specification, right? So I could go into a fire department and I could sell them t-shirts or, logoed shirts, and that's great. And they could wear them around the station, but that's not their uniform, right? Their uniform is either a Class A that they're showing up in a parade with, or it's the turnout gear that they're showing up to a fire in, right? Those are the two real uniforms for a firefighter, right? The t-shirt, again, we're talking about t-shirts, which is fun, right? Because
everyone sells t-shirts.
Right. And then the t-shirts are also used like Aileen is saying, right? So you've got a brand, you wear uniforms, right? And you're going to put your logo on that. How many restaurants have you gone to where they want you to pay $30 to buy a t-shirt with the restaurant's logo on it? I'm always like, you should just give it to me, because anytime I wear that damn thing, I'm promoting your restaurant.
Hence promotional products.
Exactly. Yeah, but it is huge. It'll continue to have overlap, especially in a dropship world, right? Like there's so many now that can do what you're describing with Sanmar or SNS, right? Which bought Alpha Broder, right?
They did.
Like, so they I could just place my order, the item gets drop shipped over to the decorator, the embroiderer
decorates it
and then ships it to the end user. I am now a uniform company and I never have to touch a product.
Exactly. All I need is a website.
Right.
Well, and I always will believe in knowledge. When you as a company have the knowledge, when you can advise your customers, I always think that it's better. That's the same as we're living in a world where prices are very important. But when you really want quality, you need to pay a little bit more to get advice and good customer service and all those things. So that's the same with it when they're talking about AI. They're going to replace, writers. No, I don't think. They can write everything, but there are still things, when you really have knowledge, and as a company, you will always be on your top. Yeah, I think so.
Love it.
That's great insight.
Yeah, I love that. Good thought, Aileen. And now that you've dropped AI into the conversation, I have an article that I pulled that we just put like at the end of the pulse, like a couple of weeks ago. We didn't even feature it too much because it's not straight uniforms, but it is Google unveils new AI tools to help shoppers find their perfect look. Okay. So this idea, which we've all been hearing about for, a long time, and there's been attempts at doing this, right? Where certainly in the eyewear, we were talking about eyewear earlier, I've loaded my face to a glasses website so that I could see those frames on my face, right?
Same. I did the same. Yeah.
So that kind of works. Well, what if now with the power of AI, which is getting so rampantly powerful, really quickly, Google is saying, well, we could just do it with, anything. That would be the amazing. So Google is introducing new AI tools to help bring fashion visions to life, from experimenting with the latest makeup to trying on clothing. Everyone in the US can shop for apparel that matches what they're envisioning, what they envision in their minds. So, and then one other anecdotal thing, and I'll let you two react to this then, is they're justifying this, calling it the Vision Match tool. They're justifying it saying, hey, that nearly 1 in 5 apparel searches, so 20%, fancy way of saying 20%, right? 20% of the searches on Google consists of 5 or more words, and added that this trend highlights how people are increasingly looking for very specific items. So they're not just saying, where can I buy men's shoes, right? They're going to say, I want men's combat boots this size, this color, right? Like we're really getting specific. And so they're arguing that is another way that this AI, thing will help. I don't know. Thoughts? Is this good for the uniform industry?
I think this is amazing when you're talking about inclusivity. For example, there are now, I wrote about it in my columns before, more and more laws internationally that are saying you shouldn't wear, for example, workwear or PPE that is made for the job, but it's made for the person. And I think this is a really good fit for this, because when people are saying, for example, I'm looking for gloves. I have very small hands, longer fingertips, just saying things, and you're looking for that. That gives the opportunity for companies who are selling really niche products. So I think it is really important for the inclusivity that everyone can find the products, and that is almost, it's not like you don't have to advertise anymore, but it's like free advertisement for your company, and it gives a possibility to grow. I think that's really interesting. And especially for the ladies, because for over years, I heard so many problems with uniforms and workwear and PPE for women that they can't find the good ones that they really fit. So, for example, maybe in the future you can say, okay, my hips are this big and my waist is this size and my legs are this size. I like fabrics with a lot of stretch in it. I want a black color or whatever, and they just give it to you. That's amazing. I think that's amazing.
So I'm gonna I agree. This blows my mind what AI can do. Like every day, I'm like, oh my God, insane how quick it has. But I'm gonna take a different approach, just to kind of, I don't know. When we do everything online, we're missing that personal touch. We're missing the brick and mortar that exists in everyone's economy. I'm not saying we should all hop in our car and drive to stores and things like that, but AI, it's great to search for your ideas, but you don't want to take away from really feeling the garment and trying it on. And I don't think anything can replace that, because a fabric might drape differently. I mean, goodness, I want to try out this tool, and then maybe I'll have a different perspective, but maybe I'm too old school and I'm like,
Well, I don't think it's a replacement. It's not a replacement. It's just like online shops, but it's only like online shop 2.0. There are still shops, like physical shops, and I know that as you said, fabrics are very important for a lot of people, and especially when you're having certain size, you're going to look for it online. You're going to see, oh, it does exist in my size, or I have a different shape, or, you have all kinds of bodies. And I think that it's a good way to show people that some things do exist, because the physical shops nowadays, they only sell, let's say only, the sizes that most people wear.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why a lot of people say, well, my size doesn't exist, or I cannot find any brand. So I think it's also a big plus for the physical shops to be found.
That's a great insight into that. Having two sons in that era of everything. Yes, my Boston accent comes out. And everything is a search tool, and everything is this, and the quickness and at your fingertip. I just always want to caution us to, just focus on
Isn't this just kind of the same, like you're getting a newsletter from your, let's say, favorite fashion store, and they say, oh, we have a sale, and you think, oh, I should go to the shop now because they have a sale.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a reminder that the
What they have.
products are on discount, and this is like a reminder the products are there. And for me as a person, I don't like shopping clothes. I really hate it to be in stores with a lot of people, in general, place with a lot of people. But and I think it's really important for me to find the products, know they exist, and then go to the store.
And then
It's
go.
like it's
Here.
searching on a different level, I think.
Yeah, I think you both bringing up really interesting points related to this that I hadn't considered immediately, right? And like as a typical male, I will avoid going to a clothing store at all costs, right? I just don't want to go. So if this helps me, like I'm even subscribed now. I don't know if they have them in the Netherlands, but there's many of them here in North America. This one's called Stitch Fix. So this isn't a plug for them, but they have millions, literally millions of users, and you schedule a fix, they call it, and they send you 5 items. You pay $20 if you return all of them in the pre-addressed envelope they send you, a big Tyvek envelope. Then fine, you just paid the $20 to get 5 things and try them and see if you want to own them. If you buy all 5, you get a significant discount. So it's almost like I've had this happen multiple times. I like 4 of them, don't really care about the 5th, but it literally will cost me money to not keep that 5th one, right? So now you could argue it's fast fashion, but this is a Stitch Fix shirt that I probably got 2 years ago, right? And a typical guy, and they preview it, right? So they send you, hey, here's some things we were thinking about sending you. They have past purchases. When you first sign up, they send you that you click through a whole series of like this, don't like this, like this, don't like this, right? Do these two go together? No. Yes. Do these two go together? Right? Like just trying to get a feel for who you are. And the algorithm's now pretty damn good. It sends me things that I like. And I can preview them. How amazing will it be when they'll just preview it then on me? Like they'll have photos of me, right? And they'll just send me the previews already with me on it. But I agree with Leslie that how can you possibly know the feel? Like sometimes I've gotten something from them and I'm like, this fabric's amazing. I had no idea it was going to be like this, this feel, this hand, right? And then other times I'm like, no, I don't like this. The grading is not the same as this other shirt they sent me. And so I don't like it, right? Which you can't get unless you try it on physically. So, and maybe AI can account for all of that, right? They'll have 1,000 points on your body that they can match the grading, but that is a lot of information. That would mean all these manufacturers have to share their grading on, in a publicly accessible way. And they're just not going to do that because it's bad enough that you can't copyright a design, right? Everyone can copy Dior since we name drop Dior, right? But
Yes.
So certainly putting everyone's grading online will just make it too easy for knockoffs, I guess. I don't know. So those are some interesting thoughts around the tech. No doubt the tech will continue.
Oh goodness, it is. It's what it changes daily in some instances.
It does. Yeah.
It's amazing. I am looking forward. I'm going to try this out, and then maybe my opinion.
Well, I think it has its uses. I think you're both making valid points. Like Aileen's saying, hey, it'll be really good for this. And you're saying, yeah, but it won't be good because people won't understand the fabric and the fit. They'll just think they look good in this imaginary version.
Correct. No, you're right. You're right.
Well, I think it's especially for people, as you said, Rick, who don't like to go to stores. Yeah. I think it's just like you have now those apps. You can photograph yourself, they can see your measurements. It's all those features coming together with AI or technology. I think that's great because at this point, I just have, I think, 1 meter, just the same shirts in different colors. Yeah. Because I don't want to go to shops. Yeah. So I buy just I told you about this, Rick, before, that they have online in the Netherlands, Germany, and Belgium, they have Vinted, which is an online shop where people also, Italy, I think, can sell their clothes secondhand.
Hmm.
So I have like a search thing for this specific shirt for this brand with this size, and I just know which fabric is needed for me for have a good fit.
Nice.
And well, I don't have to go to stores for a nice shirt.
Nice.
So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I think
You got another article or news item for us, Aileen?
yes, I do. I was wondering, do you ever heard about PPE for dogs?
I have
I
not.
honestly have not.
You have not.
I am now intrigued. As you know, I have a couple.
You have a couple of dogs.
Yes, I do.
How many?
2.
Okay. Well, I have one. I think Rick also has one. So we're all dog lovers. I already thought this was a good environment. So, but Rick, did you hear about it? PPE for dogs.
No. What is it?
Okay.
What does that mean?
Well, I will send you in a chat screen a link to an article, which I think is hilarious, but it's also very interesting because there is PPE for dogs. And in some cases, do you see the link?
Yes.
I do, but since we're on a podcast, go ahead and tell us about it.
Okay. Okay. So you have PPE for dogs, and it's so interesting because a lot of times dogs also need PPE. For example, when they're using dogs for when there is like a building crushed down, you know, that people are using dogs for searching for people who survived. And then what I have seen is they're putting like socks on their feet to protect them. But now that was something I knew. What I also knew that they have jackets, high visibility jackets. For example, Carhartt once sent me a couple of clothes, and I had a big mouth, and I said, "Well, I saw you also have clothes for dogs. Can I try this?" And now I have a high visibility jacket for my dog with reflection, with orange, high visibility, and my dog is like a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, which is like the kind of dog that thinks everything is okay in the world, so he doesn't matter. And one time, it's like, yeah, do whatever you want. And one time when I'm going, for example, to the airport, I get to pick up my husband, and I was going with public transport. I have to walk to the bus. I have to walk to the airport. These are those moments where it's very important to be visible. And one time, for example, I had this collar thing on with lights, and then he got a seizure. I got an attack. So these are really good things. But what I also saw is that in Alaska, they one time had a volcano, and that is the link that I've sent you. And people were putting glasses on the eyes of the dogs to protect the eyes. And then they also put masks, like face masks for people on the noses of the dogs. And this is just for walking outside because there's a volcano who is active.
Love it. So
I think
we just moved to the Hudson Valley area in upstate. Well, it's not really upstate, mid-state New York. It's very wooded around here. When we moved here, we didn't really know what kind of wildlife was going to be around here, Aileen, right? But my wife was concerned for this little dog about what kind of wildlife might just grab our dog, right? And run off, like that's lunch. Yeah. So she bought a vest that is like an anti-coyote or wolf thing, or that it's got all of these kinds of spikes, kind of looks like a punk rocker going out for the night, right?
Wow.
It's like it's orange colored, so it's also bright, but then it's got all of these like steel magnetic spikes, and I laughed that she was getting it, right? I of course made fun of the whole thing until we had a bobcat come through our property like twice in like a week apart from each other. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, but now we don't let her off leash. So that's our dog is safe, everybody, no worries.
But, wondering.
But your story about that reminded me, and it makes sense when you see police canines, right? Very popular use of dogs here in the US. Most departments have a canine unit for various purposes, search and rescue, like you just said. But, you know, it can also be protective. But they typically, seems like they're always wearing some kind of vest type thing. And I thought it was just identification, but I never really thought about it. Maybe those are like bulletproof as well. And maybe they're like,
Well,
you know.
from what I understand, I've dived into this topic before. I still haven't read an article or column about it. I think that's interesting to show people, but that's just for identification, because they have this canine, you know, on their vest, and but there are so many things. I think bulletproof, maybe because of the heaviness. I don't know if that's a good thing.
Yeah,
no,
I don't know.
But we also in the Netherlands use a lot of dogs. That's also very common. Also horses. Yeah, I also this week I also wrote that they now have PPE new rules. I think it was a different country for people who are training horses, because they found out that people who are training horses have more injuries, and a lot of people going to hospitals. So, but this is just another topic from my workwear nerd brain. So
nerd brain.
No such thing. There's no such thing as nerd brain in workwear.
Leslie, you got one. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just my final thought on the PPE. I love the whole high visibility. Think about when you take your dogs for walks. You know, I'm seeing more and more people throw on high visibility, especially in neighborhoods where it's dark lighting and things like that. So what a cool like progression. And if anyone, you know, when people listen, maybe they'll start up a business and sell PPE for animals.
Please. International sendings, please. I'm from the Netherlands. I want to try it too. Please.
Yes, absolutely. They should ship. Of course.
Leslie, you got one last one for us?
Yeah, the last article could be somewhat controversial, but not necessarily. So here in the United States, Aileen, as I'm sure you're well aware, there's a lot of different supply chain issues going on in the world when it comes to where we're producing product. You know, there could be an added tariff, things like that. So I read this article, and it was actually through the NAUMD. It's Supply Chain Brain. And really, the article was about, with all this change, and especially in the United States, because of this administration with tariff and different added duties, should we start manufacturing in the United States? And everyone just is like, yes, yes, yes. But one of the statistics kind of came out to me is that as of this past February, we have over 400,000 manufacturing jobs that haven't been filled because people in this country might say, yes, let's start making things here, but nobody wants to go do it. Nobody has that skill set to do it. And in the high-tech field, you need to have an advanced degree, engineering and whatnot, but let's just even keep it to clothing, uniform clothing. The skill set's not here. And the people that would want to go into these factories and produce, there's a lot of chaos going on in our country with immigration policies. So not to be political, but we make these comments like, let's make it. But yet there's not a roadmap to it. So we should just realize that it's just not going to be that revolution, the industrial revolution of the old early 19th century. So that's really my topic to the group is, with all of the change globally on where your supply chain and manufacturing are, just producing in your home country is not a solution in many ways. And we just need to be mindful of that.
Well, it could be a solution. I know that in Germany, but that country is famous for making workwear. That
yes,
they are making, but they are making it. And I've seen statistics that I think the majority of the uniforms and workwear that be worn in the Netherlands comes from Germany. Everyone thinks it's from India or China, but it's a lot from Germany. But then again, of course, I understand that you need knowledge. I think that is
Yes.
like that's been there for so many years. They are famous for it, so they have the knowledge. Yeah, to be honest, I'm very happy I don't have to think about these. I'm not jealous of what's happening in your country now. Let's say
No,
that
don't be. Don't be.
it's very
Nothing to be
yeah,
jealous of.
no, but it's very complicated, of course. And when
Yes.
you're thinking about, oh, Rick is laughing now. He's
Yeah,
standing
yeah.
still. But I really think it's really complicated, especially because you can produce in your own country, but you need knowledge. So you
Yes.
need people to tell you things and you need people to share it. And that's only just one of the reasons why this is completely ridiculous to make these rules, because I think
So the
Agree.
the 400,000 jobs open is a really interesting statistic. Certainly, when we talk with the manufacturers in the NAUMD network and many of the dealer distributors as well, one of the biggest problems with manufacturing is sewers, right? So,
Yes.
yes, we need knowledge, right? But and that knowledge also applies at every level. So
Skill set.
many manufacturers now are having to run training programs and teach people how to sew if they want to continue to produce and manufacture onshore in the US or Canada. So that's huge. So that's part one of the complexity that I'm thinking about when you presented this, Leslie. The other piece of the complexity, though, is we're not going to fill 400,000 jobs, right? We can't train that many people. So what is China's solution? China has invested billions of dollars over the last decade. Ironically, they called it something like Project 2025, right? And you can look this one up. And they had a 10-year span where they said, we're going to invest this amount of money and we want factories to have this many robots by 2025. So they literally are mechanizing and automating the production. So they've gone from taking people out of the countryside, training them, putting them in factories, right? And acidifying the environment so that everyone could live there and work in these factories. And now they're saying, okay, well, that will run its course. So what's the next evolution? And we all agree the next evolution is going to be automation. So we can manufacture in America. 100% we can manufacture in America, whatever we want. But we have to build robots that are going to actually do the work, right?
yeah, but wait, there's also a cultural thing. Because you said, like in China, these people are used to it. And you don't forget that people are going from generation to generation to generation, all making clothes, making uniforms, working in fabrics. So now they need to work with robots that for them it's just normal. I think it's, of course, for me, it's like, yeah, of course you can make this in America. But don't forget that people are not used to it.
But we used to be. So China is just right now, Aileen, where we were 125 years ago. So we had generations of clothing manufacturers, and many in our industry are still like, oh, we're on our third generation of this outerwear brand that makes these clothes. So or fifth generation, right? So we still have that. But what about people graduating from college? China is reporting the same issues. China is reporting that their college graduates don't want to go work in the factory either, and ours don't either. So you are right that it's cultural, but it's just China chose in 30 years ago, 40 years ago, said, well, let's just be the manufacturing giant. Let's turn to that, right? That wasn't happenstance, and it wasn't always the case that we went to China to make things. That was a deliberate way to try to take 2 billion people and say, well, what are we going to do for a better economic engine? And it worked, right? So then we became, right, like here in North America, we grew up like you would turn over your widget and it would say made in China. It became just like a meme, right? Before there were memes. And
Yeah, but on the other side, what I think is gonna happen is that if you are making now, you're putting all the effort in factors and people and education and everything, and in 4 years, the administration is gone. And maybe a lot of things are then changing again. And a lot
well,
of
so now
rules
you're
and
getting into the validity of the peaceful transfer of power versus the the Politburo environment of a China or a Russia, and which is a better model. And we don't really know. We know that the economic engine of the United States was quote unquote, superior for a century and a half, right? Everyone envied this economic engine we had built, and we said it was because of democracy and free trade and, minimal regulation, right? But we don't really know, right? There's no civilization that's been around for 10,000 years that we could say, well, but China's been around for 5,000 years. America's 200 years, so we don't really know.
I'm really curious what will happen when you're now making your products in your own country and then things are changing. And I think we're still living in a very crazy time now. But I think I'm curious what will happen.
Well,
Leslie, what's the future?
This particular article really was saying that it's not realistic to think that way in that sense. And part of it too, and we have to be mindful, is the cost associated with making something domestically in one's own country because of what type of civilization and what people are expected to make for a living. So there's so many factors. I'm not saying, to Rick's point or Aileen, to your point, there's a right and wrong. I'm just saying that a lot of those conversations I hear all the time, and people need to realize, there's a lot to it. It's not just okay, let's just build a factory and do it. It can't happen that way. It really can't. And that's really kind of what the point of this article was, in the sense of, I'm not saying it couldn't happen.
Topic. We could do multiple episodes just on that topic, probably, and bring in guests, to talk about
definitely,
it. Definitely very interesting.
And yes.
At the NAUMD board meeting, and Leslie, you were present at that, actually, it was interesting when the members were talking about tariffs and such, and we had a different perspective from one or two manufacturers who were producing items here in the US versus ones that were 95%, importing their goods, or 100% importing. So it's very, it's challenging. It's challenging. Yeah.
For everyone.
Boy, I really enjoyed this talking to both of you for the hour. I
don't want to go to work. I have to go to work. This is not work.
This is work, my dear.
I know. I wish.
It's talking about your work.
I know. I love it. This was great.
So that basically concludes our first news edition of The Uniformer with Aileen Out, Leslie Watt McArdle, and Rick Levine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.